êtes bien sur Radio Off Basket, la radio qui vous parle de NBA, la radio qui vous écoute.
That we wanted to head towards a team with a little more experience, a little more competitive power, and a team that we hope will be able to mesh their talents together and provide us an opportunity to challenge in this Eastern Conference. Steve and I have worked closely with our staff over the last 3 days of July, actually the week before starting the free agency. And as we've gone through this, we found nothing but very cooperative and ready people to deal and help us put this roster together. We think the players that we've been able to attract to this team complement each other. And I think the audience that we have in New York will appreciate these players.
All right, thank you, Phil. Next, General Manager Steve Mills.
Yeah, thanks for coming out today. I think as Phil mentioned, when we made the Derrick Rose trade, that set us down a path that everyone became more energized about. The team, we were able to lay out what we wanted to try to get accomplished in free agency. The picture became much clearer for us, and I think we were able to get the guys that we wanted to be part of this group to move forward with. I think we were able to do it by putting together a more competitive team immediately, but also not sacrificing anything moving forward in terms of potential room with the cap as well as draft picks. And I really think, what happened with a guy like Lance Thomas to me was indicative of how players were feeling about our team. I mean, Lance called me probably 4 times from the time we made the trade. And then on July 4th, we were in Orlando, and he called me to wish me a happy 4th, but he also told me, listen, Steve, I called my agent. I told him I want to be on the Knicks. I don't want to talk to any other teams. I don't want to have any other conversations. Just figure out a way to make me part of the team. I'm really excited about where you guys are moving. So that was sort of generally the feeling that players had about what we were getting accomplished. So for us, that was a really positive sign.
All right, thank you, Steve. And next, head coach Jeff Hornacek.
Just to piggyback on what Phil and Steve had said, a couple weeks ago when they made the trade for Derrick, I said, hey, that's great. We got Carmelo, KP, Derrick, maybe 1 or 2 other guys still under contract, but who's the rest of the roster? And these guys have done a great job of filling in guys that are going to play a big role in this team. There were several holes at that point, and they've plugged them all, I think, perfectly. And I'm excited to see these guys, the new guys. When you see them on other teams, I admire them from afar, watching them play, what they did for their teams. And I think the biggest thing is that these guys have found team guys that want to win, want to go out there and lay it out there. And that's what's exciting for a coach, is to have a group of guys now that we know who we have, and after talking to all of them, seeing what they say about how excited they are for the season, it's a great start.
All right, thank you, Coach. We're now going to do a Q&A with our attending media. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand, wait for the microphone to come along, and please introduce yourself so we know who you are.
Brian Mahoney from the Associated Press. Phil or Steve, it's 2 summers in a row you've had to really make a lot of change, brought in a lot of new players to the team. Are you comfortable having to do that? And are you comfortable, I guess, with the results will be different this time, better this time?
I liked what we did last summer. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough strength to provide a bench, that could cover injuries, fatigue. We had a young rookie that, kind of hit the wall in the middle of the season. So we anticipate that this is the style of what the NBA is going to be like in the coming years. Rosters that have to be reestablished or restructured as a free agency comes through, and we know that there's 160, 170 guys going to be free agents every year. So there's going to be a lot of turnover in the NBA, which does preclude that you're not going to have the continuity. And this is one of the difficult things about it. We'd like to have continuity. We're going to try and establish that. Hopefully we'll be able to do a little better job of that in the future. We like this team. Joakim Noah has been somebody that's been on my list for quite a long time as far as when he's available. I'd like to have this guy as a leader with the defensive attitude that he carries and the teamwork that he likes to promote. And I think most players in the NBA recognize this, and a lot of coaches do also. And so bringing him in as initially our first choice in the free agent market, I think kind of solidified what we wanted to get accomplished. We have offensive players. We need players that want to do the rest of the work. A lot of times that's behind the scenes or maybe not as noticed. And so this is a choice similar to Robin Lopez that we had last year that we hope can be a foundation to our defense and kind of the backbone of our teamwork.
Mark Berman, New York Post. Phil, where do you see the team in the Eastern Conference? Is it definitely a playoff team and maybe even better? And also, what are still your concerns about the roster?
Well, I'll say this about it, that we haven't talked about any of that. We just talked about being a competitive team. We haven't talked about, we can finish 4th or 3rd or 6th or 8th or whatever. And we won't know that until this team gathers a sense of chemistry, how to play together and how to work together in that regard. So those things are still to be known, and I hate to make those kind of predictions. Steve, you weigh in on this a little bit because I think you can address Mark, one of your best favorite reporters here.
No, I agree with Phil. We wanted to make a more competitive team. We didn't put anything out there in terms of we should finish in a particular order. In terms of the makeup of the team, we feel good about the guys that we have. But, we feel that, even though there's some guys that have, injury issues in the past, we think we've added enough depth, and we feel confident as we, do our due diligence medically on all these guys that we feel good about our ability to withstand the season and be able to have a competitive team.
The concerns that, we had a big body in Robin last year. Joakim represents a more mobile, athletic, slender center. We don't have a huge body. Our young kids, Willie, Billy, Hernan Gomez, and Marshall Plumlee represent possibilities. We don't have an established veteran behind. Kyle's going to have to take up that role a little bit to start with.
Steve Popper from the Bergen Record. Phil, you talked before about continuity and culture. Did the way free agency has gone and the way the cap has gone, has it had to change the way you approach building this roster?
The decisive moments were, when we went into the postseason and we had to sit and think about, okay, how are we going to get this team activated? We've gone with youth, we've gone with some young players. We tried to establish some veterans to play alongside of our group. We need now to have other forceful players that have established games to come to this team, to activate our team. And, you know, I saw an opportunity with Rose to have that individual that would come in and take a load off of Carmelo as a scorer, so that he's not the prime facet that teams can balance their defense against. They're going to have to, you know, really provide a lot more than just, you know, one-trick defensive situation. So, you know, Derek gave us that opportunity to move forward a little bit quicker than we anticipated in the past.
Phil and Steve, you guys have both mentioned Derrick Rose as being a factor in kind of how you approach free agency, but was there anything else that factored in how you approach putting this team together? It seems to be in win-now mode as opposed to building a little more slowly. And was that a shift in thinking at all?
Well, one of my questions to Carmelo was, postseason, you know, we haven't made the playoffs. This is now 2 years since I've been here. And are we moving quickly enough for you in your anticipation of trying to be into a competitive playoff situation? And, you know, I think that was our conversation that established the fact that his desire and, you know, the idea that, you know, he is getting into an age range where things have to happen for him, you know. And so we decided to activate ourselves a little bit quicker in this regard. So that's one of the things.
And I think as we looked at the team, we said, you know, it's really important for KP to be able to develop as a basketball player. And the best thing we can do to help him develop is to put him in a culture where we're winning basketball games. And he's around other good players. And so if you can do that, and again, like I said before, not sacrifice anything moving forward, to me, it's you're trying to win now, but we haven't taken our eye off of creating a culture and creating a group that allows him to develop as a basketball player.
Hi, Chris Herring from the Wall Street Journal. I guess I'm just wondering what sort of variance possibilities do you see with this team? I think people look at the names on the roster and feel like it could win a considerable amount of games, but it's also a roster that, between the point guard, the center, and the backup point guard, that over the last 2 years have missed a decent amount of games due to injury. How much did you guys factor that in when you were building the roster, and kind of what level of variance do you feel like there is, or, you know, in terms of the injuries these guys have had?
I missed that third word that you used. What kind of variance did you say? Variance? No doubt. Having looked at Derrick Rose and his career, and then understanding, you know, this is a young player, probably the youngest MVP since that I can remember, since, you know, Wes Unseld, who was a rookie and won the MVP. Probably was older in age than, you know, Derrick was, but that's an amazing factor for his career. But last year he had a situation where I thought he was coming back healthy and had the occipital eye injury that kept him out of training camp. He couldn't do any work, had to come back and wear a mask with blurred vision to start a season. I thought that really colored his season, and that he was healthier than everybody was making giving credit for. This is a young man. I mean, the players we...
A great captain knows...
A young man. I mean, the players we have brought on are all young men, even though they've had some injuries. Noah's one of the older guys, and, you know, kind of the gramps in this group, but his injury was a shoulder injury, which is, you know, repairable, and what we look for in this business is what happens with the foundation, the legs. Brandon Jennings, obviously a concern. Achilles tendon is a big concern, but he's had a year, and this is a year for him to do that, and so we're aware of this, and it's also given us the opportunity to take this risk. It's a risk-reward situation. We're aware of this. We think the reward's going to be great, but there always is risk, so we're aware of it.
Phil and Steve, what are you expecting from the European player Kuzminskis? What could you tell us about him, and why was Courtney Lee such a priority?
I'll handle the Kuzminskis.
Mindy.
No, Kuz. I'm going to call him Kuz.
Kuz.
Or Kuz. We felt like we needed an agile, mobile three that had some ability to shoot distance, spread the court. He represents a player that's probably going to take, acclimating to the NBA. We understand that, but we also think it gives us another opportunity to play smaller, quicker, wider extension of spacing, and provides an athlete that I think people are going to enjoy watching play. Courtney Lee?
Yeah, and Courtney was a guy that was at the top of our list from the beginning, and we like the idea that he was the competitive nature that he has as a player, the idea that he comes into a game wanting to defend the best perimeter player on the opposing team, and we needed that kind of defensive energy, his ability to make shots. He just was a guy that is an all-around player and someone who has a history of starting in this league. I think when we looked at our team last year, when we looked at our roster, did we look down and say, okay, we have all these guys are legitimate starters in this league, and one of our goals was to come away with, when you look at this group, we say everyone, they have a place in this league as a starter, and Courtney definitely fit that bill for us, so he was really important to us from the start.
Any other questions? Boy. Oh, Chris Herring has a question.
Maybe just one last thing.
Okay.
Phil, can you expand on you said that you went to Carmelo, or you talked with Carmelo, and you said, are we moving fast enough? Just in terms of competing, contending, he obviously said that he wanted to try to contend for a championship before his career is over. What exactly did you tell him in that response, and did that kind of spur you to go look at Derek?
Do you want me to paraphrase or try to get the exact quotes? Okay, I'll do my best. I think Carmelo said, I think our first priority is to get a point guard. And so we tossed around our ability to go out to get a point guard in the free agent market. And that was one of our talks. We talked about how to build or rebuild the team, including other players, but that seemed to be a priority. And as I looked down the list, I did not want to go out and spend a lot of cap dollars chasing what I thought was going to be a very competitive point guard situation in the free agent market. And so we went for Plan B, which was really a Plan A in my head. I like that idea of using a trade factor. Losing, Robin Lopez, was, like getting a tooth pulled. It was not easy. We didn't want to lose him. We liked him, and Jose's been a guy that we've always liked, even though our fans really never gave him an open market or open heart. We liked who Jose was. So Jaren has a future. And we made a move last year to draft him in a draft process that we hoped that he was going to be a starter at some point in our so we had to give up something. And that's what you have to do in this game to do that. You hope that the trades work for both teams. And, that's the way we felt we had to go about this business. So that was the decision. Now that's it. I won't tell you anything more.
Ian Begley, ESPN.com. I guess
is that it? Was that the last question? Ian, do you want to?
Please.
Let's let Ian get it.
Thank you. For all three of you guys, or any of you, what did you think about Kevin Durant choosing to go to Golden State, and does that impact your approach or thinking at all with this club?
It is what this NBA's turned out to be. It's been, open field right now, and that's the way it's going to be for a while. It looks like that. The players allowed this to go forward instead of smoothing it, so there's tons of money out there, and it gave everybody an opportunity to do some major moves in the NBA. When all this, settles down, we'll see how it happens, but it's a very interesting, compelling team that Golden State's put together.
And it made us.
Excuse me, Steve.
No, go ahead.
I was part of a team that did this in 2004 with the addition of Karl Malone and Gary Payton, along with Shaq and Kobe, etc., that was looked on as accumulating a lot of stars. Didn't work out for us because we had injuries as we go forward. But those things happen, and it's not the first time. The first time might have been when Wilt Chamberlain was traded to Los Angeles and they had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. And everybody said, how are we going to beat that team? And the Knicks came back and beat them that next year, and Boston beat them the year before. So it doesn't guarantee a championship. It does guarantee a team that's going to be watched. It's going to be very competent.
I think it just made us feel good about our approach in terms of how we dealt with free agency this year. I mean, we knew that KD wanted to go to a team that he felt like had a chance to win a championship this upcoming season, and we didn't fit that bill. Now, we know that if he had made a decision to make a 1-and-1, we would have had a meeting with him, because then we would have been one of those teams that he would think about for the following year. And that's if he stayed in OKC. But with the idea that he made the decision to go to Golden State, even though he'll do a 1-and-1, my assumption is that he'll stay there.
I think from the coaching standpoint, glad he stayed out west. When you look at this free agent where everybody's signing, you're looking how it fits other teams. I was in the West long enough to see those teams out there, and that if it wasn't going to be to the Knicks, stay out west was fine by me.
I want Bondi to ask a question, because I don't want the Daily News to say that we ignored them, like happened the last time when you guys foisted something on our. Do you have a question?
I was going to ask the Kevin Durant question, but he stole that from me. So you guys answered it, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We're going to do our photo opportunity with our players.
To Steve Mills and Jeff Hornacek, and interesting that Phil Jackson talking about the fact that the Knicks strategy formed at least in part in conversations with Carmelo Anthony about the organization's need perhaps to move faster than it might otherwise because of Melo's closing window and his desire to get this team back into the playoffs. One of the reasons why maybe they went with the win now philosophy, and Steve Mills also mentioning the need and desire to surround Kristaps Porzingis with winning type of players so that KP, as part of his development, can be part of a team that hopefully wins more than it did last year in his rookie season. Interesting to note that if you look at the starting five, which looks pretty set, and then you have Brandon Jennings and Lance Thomas coming off the bench, you wonder what else is going to be off of Phil Jackson's bench in support of players like Joakim Noah, who, of course, is going to be in the starting five. You have Jennings, who we have talked about comes to the team off a torn Achilles tendon injury, played half the year this past year, coming back from that injury with Orlando and Detroit off the bench. But prior to that, in all of his previous years, has been a starter. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jennings adjusts to playing off the bench. And Steve Mills also talking about Lance Thomas. And Lance Thomas very much, Rebecca, wanted to stay as a member of the Knicks. And you got to feel great for Lance Thomas. He had that great article that he wrote for PlayersTribune.com about how it's been him and his duffel bag for all these years, and now Lance Thomas has a home.
He really has found a home in New York, and I do love that he called up Steve Mills and said, look, I don't want to talk to any other team in the league. I've told my agent that the only place that I want to be is here in New York. And Lance Thomas is such a great character guy, something that they were so big on him last year. So the fact that he wants to stay on this team with these new faces and these new players coming in, it speaks volumes to the character of these guys that the Knicks are currently bringing in. You also have to love the fact that Steve Mills was saying that the picture became very clear once they got Derrick Rose, and that everything went from there, that they really felt that they could build around him. Then, of course, the next piece that they got, Joakim Noah. And you have to appreciate the fact that Phil Jackson said, hey, he's a guy who's been on my list for a really long time. time that he's the type of player that as soon as he's available, I'm going after him. And it's because of the defense that he brings, the energy that he brings, the heart that he brings to the team. And really, he's a guy that you can trust, Phil, back there to get those stops and get that done, but also play with heart night in and night out. He's such an unselfish player, and not long ago, the Defensive Player of the Year in the league.
You're going to hear from Noah and Jennings and Lee as we move forward here, and comments also from the executives and Jeff Hornacek on Courtney Lee about he is going to be key for the Knicks on defense and hopeful to provide shooting from downtown. Lee in his career has been 38% in his career from three, and the Knicks with the mid-range game, Rebecca, of Melo and also D. Rose are going to figure to need some help from downtown.
That's right. You know, one thing that was also mentioned by Phil Jackson was that part of what they wanted to do here was take the load off of Carmelo Anthony. That, yes, they wanted to bring in pieces to win now, and they've done that. But at the same time, when you take a look at what Carmelo Anthony was able to do last season, this is a guy who primarily for the year led the team in points and rebounds and assists. He had a phenomenal year. He did everything on the floor. But, you know, he's going to be excited about the fact that he's not going to have to carry the weight of this team on his shoulders. He's got some veteran players with an incredible amount of experience, and of course he's got one of the rising superstars in the league with Kristaps Porzingis, Bill.
And Noah, you see there, we're going to hear from him here in a couple of moments. The injury problems that Noah has gone through, well documented, played at only 29 games last year, had the shoulder operated on. But Rebecca, interesting story that Noah ran into Phil Jackson earlier before the free agency period and proved to Phil Jackson that his shoulder was okay. Let's go over to Rebecca now, standing by with the Knicks coach.
Thanks, Bill. Well, Coach, you know, you've been here for about a month now. Did you ever imagine that 1 month later this was going to be the roster you were going to be looking at?
No, a month ago when they traded for Derek, there was only 3 or 4 guys on the roster, so you didn't know how it was going to unfold. You know, there were some thoughts out there of how it could unfold with different positions, and you know, Phil and Steve did a great job of filling exactly what we were looking at, and I'm excited to get this going.
One of the first things that you talked about when you came to New York was making sure that the Knicks took a look at the backcourt this summer, and you were interested in seeing how that was going to come together. Getting Derrick Rose and then now Brandon Jennings, how does that get you excited about what you can do?
Well, obviously I think the NBA game today is a lot of pick and rolls. You know, we're not going to do as many. We still want to run some of the aspects that they've had here before with the triangle, but it gives us a threat. You know, with Brandon and Derek to be able to break down the defense, open it up for some of our other guys. And I think the biggest thing for me is seeing the roster the way it's shaped up is if I'm an opposing coach, I'm looking at this team going into the game saying, okay, who are we focusing on? Are we going to try to stop Carmelo tonight? Are we going to try to stop KP? So the way I look at it is they can only do so much. Somebody's going to have opportunities, and the more talent you have, the better.
How does that affect what you think you can do in terms of the things that you can run, knowing that you're always going to have a prolific scorer open?
Yeah, it gives us a lot of different things we can do. I think in the triangle offense, the automatic offense, it could lead to anybody having it. And so, you know, some nights, some guys might have a big night, depending on the way the defense plays, and other nights, you know, another guy might, and we can open it up. I feel that we're a pretty good defensive team. We have length. We can do a different stuff with maybe some traps, some zone, get us out in the open court, and then let these guys' ability take over.
And speaking of the defense, bringing in a guy like Joakim Noah, how does it affect what you can do, knowing that you guys have him as a last resort there?
Well, not only a last resort, he's going to be kind of the head of that defense. He's going to be yelling out to guys. I love Joe's energy, the way he's out there yelling at all the guys what's happening, because the big guy is the guy that's sitting there watching the whole play develop. You know, he's on that back line. And so for him to be able to help direct some of our guys defensively, hey, get to the left, rotate to the right, whatever it is, that's a huge thing for us.
And outside of just the X's and the O's, something that has been so important to this team is bringing in the right kind of guys, the culture guys, the guys who want to win, play unselfishly. What's your impression of spending time now with these guys now that you've had a chance to meet them?
So far, so good. I think everybody's always tells you we want to win, we'll do whatever it takes. Now they have to follow through on that. And every guy I've talked to has said, hey, you know, I love the moves, I love the way the team looks. If we can just play together and play unselfishly, we can be a darn good basketball team. And for a coach to hear that, you know, that's what we'll emphasize all year.
The move's not quite finished yet. What else would you like to see?
Well, I think we have pretty much a good positioning at every spot. You're always looking for more guys that, in case somebody gets hurt, who can step up. And if somebody has to step up, who's the next guy in line? So until you get the final 15th spot filled, you're looking for the best guy out there. I think we have most of the positions covered. So whatever Phil and Steve can come up with in those last positions will be good.
Coach, thanks for your time. You certainly have a lot to be excited about. Bill, let's shoot it back over to you.
Okay. Winning in the Garden, I'm not going to get a feeling like that anywhere else. And wearing this jersey means everything to me. You know, I was in New York when I was in the Garden when Larry Johnson, you know, hit the shot. I was in the Garden when Michael kicked our and gave us 55. You know, I was in the I was in the building. You know, growing up as a kid, I was in the Garden during the finals when Tim Duncan kicked our too. So you know what? I was rooting. So I'm not here to just get a check and be happy. That's not. I want to be an animal. I want to make the city proud. I think it's with just everybody gelling together. There's a lot of new faces, and it's just an exciting time. New coach, new players, but you know, I like the makeup. In terms of the character of the team. I think that New York's going to be very proud of this team.
You've got this New York hat on here, but a homecoming for you. What is the most exciting part for you coming home playing for the Knicks?
New York is very special to me. This is where I grew up, and I've been so this is everything to me, and I'm ready to be an animal for this city.
I like it. All right, now let's rewind a little bit, though. Derrick Rose gets traded to New York. At what point did it go through your mind, I want to go with him?
Right when I heard that trade happened, I couldn't believe that, you know, Derrick was getting traded to the Knicks. It was just, I couldn't imagine him leaving Chicago. And for a center, for Robin, it was pretty crazy. You don't really hear of point guards getting traded for centers. So I knew that they had an empty spot there, and right away I just knew that this was where I wanted to be.
And then it wasn't long after that you went after Courtney Lee. You've got some magic talent because you got him to come here. He took some less money, and now he's here. But walk us through how you got him here as well.
It was easy. You know, we have friends in common, and I just wanted to get to him, and I thought it was a great fit for him in terms of basketball. And I know that if we can win here, there's nothing better. You're not going to get that feeling winning a basketball game at Madison Square Garden. And I was just getting them hype, you know, just getting them excited, and and we got the deal done.
Knicks fans also incredibly hyped up to see that there was video yesterday of you working out with Carmelo. So tell us about that. What has it been like to be on his side of the fence?
It's unbelievable. It's a New York thing. You can't do anything on the low, huh?
Not at all. Welcome.
Nah, it feels good. You know, Carmelo's an unbelievable talent, and I've been wanting to play with him for a long time. And to be able to do it here it's really special. You know, I wake up every morning feeling so blessed, and to be able to work with a talent like that and play with a talent like that who's a warrior on the court, great leader, I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, so speaking of not being able to get away with anything, we've also heard stories about a run-in that you had with Phil Jackson in which you put your arm up. You wanted him to do a little pull-up there. Tell us that story.
Wait, what happened?
You ran into Phil Jackson earlier this spring. You said he could do a pull-up on your arm to prove that the shoulder was doing all right. Or is this not true? Hey, we might be learning something here.
I was just trying to cut some side deals, you know?
All right, so how healthy are you then?
I feel great. You know, I'm working hard every day. You know, I'm not going to waste this opportunity. This is very special. You know, being able to play at home and not anywhere. I'm playing in New York City. This is where I grew up. I have so many people to thank. You know, Mr. Green, rest in peace. I love you. I wouldn't be here without you. You know, but it's real. You know, a lot of people. I just don't want to take this opportunity for granted, and it's a blessing. And I'm hungry to get it popping in the Garden.
How good can this team be?
I think we have a lot of talent, but now, you know, talent isn't everything. Now it's about gelling together, building chemistry, and having that gangster mentality every time we step onto the court. You know, that's what New York is all about. We got to be tough, and we got to stick together. You know, there's going to be a lot of distractions. That's what New York City is all about. Staying focused and make the city proud.
Jonah Ballo here with a new free agent acquisition, Joakim Noah, formerly of the Chicago Bulls. Welcome back to New York, I should say, right?
Yeah, it feels good to be home.
Now, you're coming back to New York, and you talked about how excited you were to return here, and you're on Instagram sporting that Knicks hat. What does it mean for you to play in this city at this point in your career?
I grew up here. This is home to me, and it's just so many people to thank. But you know, I grew up a Knicks fan, so being able to wear this jersey means so much to me. It's such a blessing, and I'm really hungry. I feel like a rookie all over again.
It seemed like such a natural fit when Phil Jackson just spoke to the media about, you know, targeting you for a while, a player that he always wanted to see on his team, and then the fit for you to be here with Jeff Hornacek and Phil Jackson. Why is the fit so natural, and why do you think it was the perfect time for you to make that move from Chicago to New York?
You know, my father used to make me read Phil's books when I was a kid, and I don't read books too much. So, you know, I remember reading Sacred Hoops, and my father was always such a big fan of Phil, and even when he was coaching the Lakers, I used to always go and pay my respects, and I was always just enamored by his style and his philosophies, and just to be able to be in this position right now and have him around and learn from him and listen to him, it's really special, and I'm really not going to take this opportunity for granted.
Was a part of this team and the makeup of their current roster, the core guys, having Carmelo Anthony here, Kristaps Porzingis, was that a big part of your decision-making when you looked at those core group of guys that you could potentially play with?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think everybody knows how bad I wanted to bring Carmelo to Chicago. Just life finds a way somehow, you know, and I always wanted to play with him. You know, everybody knows Porzingis.
Is that your nickname for him?
Unbelievable talent. And then having the opportunity to play with my brother, Derek, here. I mean, you couldn't write it any better. And now it's on us to put in the work in the summer, come in ready, and start a new adventure.
Yeah, you spoke to him, right, after Derrick Rose was traded here, and that was kind of in discussion about you guys maybe playing together again?
Yeah, when he got traded, I was in the city already.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm home, so just wanted to make sure that, just wanted to celebrate that with him. You know, it's an unbelievable opportunity to be able to play in New York, and I just wanted him to enjoy the moment. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I'm just happy it all worked out.
Now, your health, some injuries last year, but it sounds like training's been going great for you in the summer, all reports that we've heard. So how's your health so far in training and getting ready for training camp here in a couple months?
know, it's been a tough couple years with injuries, and injuries are always very frustrating and humbling, you know. So I took a step back, but I also trained my ass off, and you know, redemption is a powerful feeling.
You still do some training with Laird Hamilton. I read that story about doing the surfing stuff, and he's crazy. So I'd imagine that's amazing for building your body up for basketball. But you still do some of that?
Yeah. I mean, Laird's a great mentor. You know, somebody who trains very hard, and somebody who also he trains knowing that, you know, if he falls off one of these 60-foot, 70-foot waves, you're going to be down there for a while. So, you know, he's under the water a lot.
All right, now looking at this team from afar and what you've got on this roster now, bringing in Courtney Lee, Brendan Jennings, a couple free agent acquisitions. How do you see the makeup of this team and the style that you'll play here?
I see a lot of talent. I see a lot of people excited to be here, and I think that's important. I think this is going to gel very fast. It's definitely going to be a process. You know, this is New York City, so there's a lot of expectations. But at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, being able to play on the biggest stage in the world with competitors. And I like the makeup of this team. I think Coach Jackson did a great job putting together guys who fit the mold.
You were a former Defensive Player of the Year, and this has been one of the main things that the coaching staff and front office have really focused on is improving the defense. You're going to be that anchor in the paint. What's your philosophy from a defensive standpoint? I mean, you're basically the quarterback on the back end of it, right? So how will you approach that and make sure that this team, you know, rises up in the defensive efficiency rankings?
Well, I think great defense comes with everybody knowing where they have to be, everybody being on the same page, everybody trusting that they're going to do their job. And for me, I'm going to be loud and vocal, and you know, just understand that, you know, it's not going to be I'm not going to be happy with giving up layups. We can't give up layups. We can't give up dunks. You know, that's got to be who we are. I think that if teams can beat us with the long two, I think we're in good shape. Give up the long two, contest it, we'll be all right. But just no dunks, no layups.
All right. Well, we're excited for the opener. Obviously, some work to do in between then, but it was great catching up with you, and best of luck. There he is, Joakim Noah, right here on Knicks Dive.
Vous êtes bien sur Radio Off Parquet, la radio qui vous parle de NBA, la radio qui vous écoute.